Welcome back. Both of the Democratic candidates in the race to unseat Republican U.S. Senator Ted Cruz have been touring the state to get their message out. Dallas area Congressman Colin Allred and State Senator Roland Gutierrez will battle it out in their party's primary in March. Both have an uphill battle to beat Cruz, but are drawing distinctions on key issues like gun control and health care. Senator Gutierrez joined me earlier today to discuss his positions and his role in the upcoming impeachment trial of suspended Attorney General Ken Paxton.
These families wanted an age limit increase and extreme risk protective orders and closing the gun show loophole. We've got to do that at federal law and even talk about an AR-15 ban, because we should have an assault weapons ban with exceptions. I don't know that others are talking about those issues right now. We need to talk about what's truly ailing all Americans. We're having a shrinking middle class, and it's all based on health care costs. We can't talk about health care costs from the space that we have under existing law. We've got to think outside the box. We need a senator that's going to create a piece of legislation that says that a rogue governor like Greg Abbott is not going to get to close the door on working class families when it comes to Medicaid expansion.
Do you think, Congressman Allred's championed working across the aisle. What would be your approach if you were elected?
Listen, I've gotten great things done in my 18 years in the Texas legislature. Created the National Center for Warrior Resiliency, Center for Excellence in our state, created the Farmer Suicide Prevention Act, where Sid Miller said this last session that my amendment saved 60 lives. I'm no stranger to working with folks on the other side, but I'm not going to cut a deal just to, say that we created some small piece of legislation that affected no one. We have to stop confusing the word bipartisanship for being nice to one another. We've got to be able to do what's right for all Americans here, and Americans are hurting, and they're hurting in their pocketbook, they're hurting in their health care costs substantially. We need to talk about a single payer system because we must. We need to talk about creating opportunity for kids that are coming out of college. We're saddling them with debt. We need to talk about a tax deduction that goes forward 10 years where they can foreclose that debt in a real way. We've got to talk about how we're going to create new and vibrant things for our community that's going to create jobs. We've got to talk about a senator that, unlike Ted Cruz, is going to vote for a bipartisan infrastructure act that creates $66 billion in projects for Texas. The broadband bill that created $300 million in Texas, he voted against that. Sure. He voted against inflation reduction. We're going to talk about all those things, Karina, because we must.
You mentioned some of the gun reforms in Uvalde, the district that you represent. You couldn't get these things pushed on the state level, so what do you think will be different on the federal level?
Listen, for the first time in 30 years, Joe Biden was able to create the Safer Communities Act. Same Safer Communities Act that Ted Cruz voted against. We need to improve it. We need to add age limits. We need to add ERPOs, extreme risk protective orders. We need to add universal background checks. And we must not stop until we get things done. And we need to even talk about an assault weapons ban with certain exceptions. And the way we need to do this is by demanding that Chuck Schumer and others in the United States Senate eliminate the filibuster, because the vast majority of Americans want this thing done, and our kids are dying. And so there's people in the U.S. Senate that would rather adhere to a little rule than to save and protect kids.
Well, I have you here. You are a current state senator. You will be part of the impeachment trial of suspended Attorney General Ken Paxton starting next week. You'll get to vote on whether to remove him from office. I know that there is a gag order in place, but what can you tell the public? What can you tell us that could be expected with this?
Well, I'll tell you, I think that we're going to be in there for at least 4 to 6 weeks for sure, possibly longer. We all know that there was 25 hours per side, but that didn't include the cross-examination. We'll let the process play out. I can't, opine on Mr. Paxton's issue in total. I can tell you he's going to get a fair trial. We're going to look at the evidence, and we'll see things as we go along. At the end of the day, if he's guilty, he'll be found guilty, at least by me, if the evidence supports that.
Well, and I know the senators met in private this week. I was told that no votes were taken, and that included on a motion to dismiss the trial. Is it fair to say that this is moving forward?
Well, as of right now, it certainly is. I mean, there has been no ruling of any sort by any motion on any of those motions. Those motions will be discussed in a pretrial setting on September the 5th. They will be discussed openly and transparently, nothing behind the scenes. And all of us will vote on that process, after which time we'll begin the trial, begin opening arguments, and begin deliberations. Not deliberations, rather, but cross-examining witnesses. We've got to make sure that's done right and done well.
Last thing I'll ask you, do you think the votes are there to move forward with the trial?
You know, I hope that people look at the evidence that's presented to them and they give Texans the opportunity to see the evidence that's presented, because what was presented at the impeachment side on the House side seemed substantial. So I'd like to see the rest of that evidence as it comes over. It's my hope that ordinary Texans get the opportunity to see this front and center so we can get this over and done with once and for all.
Senator Roland Gutierrez, thank you for your time.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
We will be bringing you full coverage of Paxton's impeachment trial. Join us on Tuesday beginning at 8:30 a.m. We'll have expert analysis and get you caught up on how we got here. Then stay with us through the final verdict as we bring you this historic trial live.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. For more refreshing stories about your community, click the subscribe button over here. You can also download our Spectrum News app and tune in to Channel 55 on Dish and DirecTV to get live news coverage, weather updates every 10 minutes, and more. We'll see you then.